At 8:42 a.m. on November 5th, 2024, James Caldwell stood in the auction ring at Cookeville Livestock Market, watching his consignment of 127 head of Black Angus feeders sell for $1.68 per pound, while his break-even price, calculated from 18 months of feed, veterinary care, and pasture costs, required $1.82 per pound to cover expenses and generate modest profit. 62 years old, second-generation cattle producer, 380-acre operation running cow-calf and backgrounding programs. The auctioneer's voice echoed through the facility as bidding stalled at $213,360 total for cattle that had cost $231,540 to raise, creating an $18,180 loss on the sale. Standard practice said, refuse the bid, truck cattle home, and wait for market prices to improve. Caldwell had another 94 head scheduled for next week's sale. Her winter feed costs running $4,200 weekly for hay and supplements, and a banknote due December 1st, requiring $48,000 payment that depended on liquidating inventory. He nodded to the auctioneer. Sold. They'd take the loss, meet the loan payment, and hope spring prices recovered enough to offset the margin destruction that had consumed 6 months of profit. Tennessee's cattle corridor operates as the Southeastern livestock distribution hub. 60-plus auction facilities processing 2.2 million head annually through coordinated weekly sales connecting 12,000-plus regional producers to feedlots in Texas and Kansas, processors in the Midwest, and breeding operations across the South. Every week, facilities process 1,000 to 5,000 head using automated weighing systems recording individual animal weights, sorting pens separating cattle by size and quality grade, veterinary inspection stations certifying health for interstate movement, and loading chutes coordinating truck logistics moving animals from auction to destination within 24 to 48 hours. This is agriculture operating as continuous livestock exchange where price discovery happens in real-time bidding, market volatility determines producer survival, and transportation networks connect Tennessee pastures to feedlots 1,200 miles away, finishing cattle for processing. A system where auction houses capture 3 to 5% commission on every transaction, while producers absorb 100% of price risk. James Caldwell learned cattle production from his father, who established the operation in 1978 when Tennessee farmers were transitioning from tobacco to livestock, as regulatory pressures and declining cigarette consumption reduced tobacco profitability. His father had run 80 cow-calf pairs, selling weaned calves at 500 to 600 pounds directly to order buyers who transported cattle to feedlots. Caldwell expanded the operation in 2004, increasing to 140 cows and adding a backgrounding program where he retained ownership of weaned calves, feeding them to 800 to 900 pounds before sale, capturing additional value from weight gain, but also assuming additional market risk and feed costs. The strategy worked when cattle prices trended upward. When prices dropped, the losses multiplied proportionally. The Cookeville auction facility Caldwell used cost $3.2 million to construct in 2012. The operation featured a 200-head capacity auction ring with stadium seating for 400 buyers, electronic bid boards displaying current prices, and video systems streaming sales to remote bidders across the country. Behind the ring, a maze of pens, chutes, and alleyways managed cattle flow. Receiving pens holding consignments before sale, scales weighing each animal individually, sorting pens separating cattle by buyer after purchase, and loading docks where 18-wheeler cattle trailers collected purchased animals for transport. The facility processed 3,200 head weekly during peak fall season, generating $280,000 in commission revenue, while cattle producers received whatever the market determined their animals were worth. The economics were market price dependent and cost insensitive. For Caldwell's backgrounding operation producing 800-pound feeders, costs accumulated predictably. $1,200 per head for heifer calf purchase, $420 for 14 months of pasture and hay, $180 for veterinary care and medications, $95 for mineral supplements, and $42 for trucking and auction fees. Total cost: $1,937 per head for an 800-pound animal, equating to $2.42 per pound, break even. But Caldwell didn't sell at cost-based prices. He sold at whatever the commodity market paid on the specific Tuesday his cattle entered the auction ring. When cattle markets traded at $2.60 per pound, he made $144 profit per head across 127 animals, $18,288. When markets dropped to $1.68 per pound due to feedlot overcapacity and beef demand softness, he lost $592 per head, $75,184 total. The operation's survival depended entirely on market timing that producers couldn't control and price volatility they couldn't hedge without futures market expertise most lacked. At 10:20 a.m., Caldwell's cattle were loaded onto 3 livestock trailers bound for a feedlot near Dodge City, Kansas. The animals would spend 18 hours in transit, arrive for 90 to 120 days of high-energy corn feeding, then move to processing. The feedlot had purchased Caldwell's cattle at $1.68 per pound because their own economics. Buying feeders, adding 400 pounds of gain at $1.40 per pound of gain cost. Then selling finished cattle at projected $1.95 per pound. Created profit margins, even when paying Tennessee producers below break-even prices. The system worked beautifully for feedlots with forward contracts and price hedging capacity. For Tennessee cow-calf and backgrounding operators selling into volatile spot markets, the system transferred all risk downward while concentrating profits upward. His daughter Rachel arrived at 11:40 a.m. to discuss the disappointing sale results. 34 years old, holding an agricultural business degree from Tennessee Tech. She'd worked the operation for 8 years while recognizing that cattle production had evolved into a financial speculation business where biological expertise mattered less than market timing and risk management skills most producers lacked. Rachel tracked data showing Tennessee cattle operations consolidating from 18,500 farms in 2000 to 11,200 in 2024, with average herd size increasing from 32 to 58 head. Small operators were exiting as price volatility and margin compression eliminated profitability for operations lacking scale economies. Dad, we just sold 127 head at $18,000 below break-even. We raised quality cattle, managed health perfectly, hit target weights, but market prices destroyed 6 months of profit. That's cattle production. We control inputs. We don't control commodity prices or the auction commission that takes $2,040 regardless of whether we profit or lose. Then maybe we're in the wrong business. Large operations running 500-plus cows can absorb price swings across diversified sale timing. We're selling everything at once because we can't afford to hold inventory through winter feed costs. Caldwell understood. His daughter was identifying the structural vulnerability. Cattle production required capital to retain animals through market downturns. But mid-sized operations lacked financial reserves to wait for price recovery, forcing liquidation at unfavorable prices that large operations could avoid through strategic timing. By November 12th, Caldwell sold his second consignment of 94 head. Market prices had recovered to $1.74 per pound, better than previous week, but still below $1.82 break-even. Total revenue: $130,832. Total costs: $137,050. Loss, $6,218. Combined with previous week's $18,180 loss, the fall marketing season had consumed $24,398 from what should have been $36,576 in profit if prices had maintained historical averages. The operation's annual net income dropped from projected $58,000 to $33,602, a 42% reduction from market volatility occurring during a 2-week selling window. James Caldwell continued cattle production through 2026, managing breeding programs and market timing while watching margins compress as feed costs increased 18% and cattle prices fluctuated between $1.52 and $2.12 per pound across the year. In spring 2027, 3 regional auction facilities, including Cookeville, announced they were consolidating operations into a single mega facility processing 8,000-plus head weekly, located 85 miles from Caldwell's farm versus Cookeville's 22 miles. The increased trucking distance would add $18 per head in transportation costs, effectively reducing his already thin margins further. He met with Rachel in April 2027 to discuss the operation's viability. The consolidation symbolized broader industry trends. Auction infrastructure centralizing to serve large volume producers while imposing additional costs on smaller operations. Processor consolidation, reducing competition and price discovery. And feedlot concentration creating buyer market power where Tennessee producers were price takers with zero negotiating leverage. Rachel, we're either part of the consolidation or victims of it. We can't expand to 500 cows without $840,000 in infrastructure and cattle purchases. We can't compete at current scale with transportation costs increasing and market prices beyond our control. Dad, even if we expanded, we'd still be selling into the same commodity markets where we're price takers. Scale just means larger losses when prices drop. James Caldwell sold his 140-cow herd and 380 acres to a regional cattle company managing 2,400 head across 5 Tennessee counties in fall 2027. The sale, $3,200 per acre for pasture and $1,850 per head for breeding cows, generated $1.48 million gross. After settling debt, Caldwell netted $680,000. Rachel took a position with Tennessee Farm Bureau as a livestock marketing specialist. Using her agricultural business education and family cattle knowledge to educate producers on the market dynamics and consolidation trends that had consumed her family's operation. Tennessee's 60-plus auction facilities continue processing 2.2 million head annually, connecting regional producers to feedlots and processors through weekly sales generating price discovery for Southeastern livestock markets. The weighing systems record weights regardless of who owns the cattle. The sorting pens separate animals regardless of which families raise them. The transportation networks function regardless of who profits from the transactions. The system persists through infrastructure and market mechanisms that mid-sized family operations developed, but can no longer navigate profitably when commodity price volatility, consolidation pressures, and commission structures transfer risk to producers while concentrating rewards elsewhere. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us preserve these histories of American agriculture's transformation. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and whether you understand the market volatility pressures crushing family cattle producers. Thank you for keeping their stories alive.